First of all, what is misfiring? Misfiring is when one of the cylinders of your engine somehow doesn't fire when it should. So it gets the fuel, but it doesn't fire because it doesn't have the spark, because it doesn't have the compression, or because of some other reason, but it doesn't fire. So how can you understand that the engine is misfiring? You will need to spot several of the symptoms that I will tell you about today. And the first symptom, which is pretty common sense, is the loss of power. So when the one of the cylinders misfires several times, you basically have not a 4-cylinder engine, but 3-cylinder engine. So one cylinder just doesn't produce any power, and this causes power loss, of course. But the power loss in this case will be only at the moment when you have misfiring. So when your engine works, like for example, you give a lot of RPMs to your engine and it works just okay. So in this case, you will not have the power loss. But when the misfiring occurs, the power will be much lower. The second thing you want to pay attention to is hesitation. So when you press the gas pedal, but your engine hesitates and doesn't want to accelerate immediately, this is one of the common things that misfiring causes. One of the cylinders will just skip the moment when it should fire and you don't have the power to accelerate. So your engine may even stall at this moment, but this happens only when several cylinders misfire, so there is a huge problem with the engine. Then, if you experience sudden vibrations in your engine, this is also the sign that shows misfiring. Why? Because when your engine, for example, it's a 4-cylinder engine and suddenly it becomes a 3-cylinder engine, it comes out of balance. So it starts vibrating. But this vibration is not constant. So your engine doesn't vibrate constantly. It vibrates only when the misfiring occurs. So when one of the cylinders misfires, your engine becomes shaky, and you will feel this on the entire body of your car. And you will see this when you open the hood and look at the engine. You will see that it shudders a little bit from time to time. This is the very clear symptom of misfiring. Then sometimes you may have black exhaust. This doesn't occur at all times because sometimes the misfiring is not that bad, and all this fuel that comes through the engine without being burned there, it will be burned in the catalytic converter and you will not have the huge amount of black exhaust. But sometimes it may happen when the misfiring is really bad and a lot of fuel isn't burned. But because what happens when the engine misfires is your injector will still inject some fuel into the cylinder, but the cylinder will not burn this fuel. And part of this fuel will go inside the engine, down the engine, so it will dilute the oil, which is not good at all. But part of this fuel will go to the exhaust system. When the exhaust valves open, part of this fuel will go to the exhaust system, and then it will burn directly in the exhaust system, in the catalytic converter, in some other tubes and parts of the system, which is pretty bad because it will raise the temperature in the catalytic converter and it will destroy the catalytic converter if you ignore this problem. So when you actually have black smoke from the tailpipe and you suspect that it's because of misfiring, you need to take action. You need to repair the engine, otherwise it's going to cost you much more in several weeks. And the fifth symptom, which is pretty easy to spot if you have a scanner, it's the code P0300 or P030 some number. When you have the code P0300, it means several cylinders misfire. They may misfire all together or one by one. But if you get P0300, it means that the problem is not likely with one of the spark plugs or one of the ignition coils. The problem is with something else, like engine electronics, or maybe the compression, or maybe something like that. But when you get the trouble code P0301, you're sure that this is about the first cylinder, so the misfiring occurs in the first cylinder. P0302 will tell you about the second cylinder, P0303 about the third cylinder, and so on and so forth. And you may also see some other codes for the exhaust system problems, etc. So if you have the scanner, check it and you will see easily that this is misfiring.